US handover. And Shreyansi, well, tell us what's happening with the US. Nasdaq has been really hot and fuming lately, but some correction has been seen over there. So tell us what's happening.
Absolutely. So it's very interesting how we're seeing things play out with the US markets. Now, when you look at US equity futures, they were little changed. And this is as investors looked forward to the latest reading of the Federal Reserve's preferred inflation reading, as well as a slew of big earnings reports as well. But stocks are heading into the final week of February on a high note, and this is after the major indexes achieved new milestones on Friday and registered winning weeks with help from Nvidia's blockbuster earnings. So when you look at the blue chip Dow, that closed at an all-time high of 39,131. And the broad market S&P at one point in the session also broke above 5,100 for the first time. When you look at the tech-heavy Nasdaq as well, that touched a 52-week high in Friday's session. Investors now watching whether the AI momentum can last as economic and inflation risks linger. With that in mind, they're also looking ahead to the monthly personal consumption expenditures price index, and that is of course the Fed's favored inflation gauge due out Thursday. So that's largely what we're seeing play out with the US markets as well. When I'm looking at Europe, there's a very interesting movement there as well, because European stocks closed higher, and this is a stock 600 notched fresh record high. When you look at what's powering this move, you did see Standard Chartered that was up 6%, and earnings from Standard Chartered showed an 18% increase in pre-tax profits. So that's largely the picture coming in when you look at European markets as well.
Absolutely. With that, let's take a look at what's happening in the world of oil. And oil prices, well, fell nearly 3% lower on Friday and posted a weekly decline after a US central bank policymaker indicated that the interest rate cuts could be delayed by at least 2 more months. So that was not taken well by both these indices, Brent and WTI as well. Both indices down 0.5% as we speak. WTI just over 76 and Brent just above $81 per barrel. Now for the week, Brent declined about 2% and WTI fell more than 3%. However, indications of healthy fuel demand and supply concerns could revive prices in the coming days. Now Fed Reserve policymakers should delay the US interest rate cuts by at least another couple of months. And that was the word coming in from Fed Governor Christopher Waller, and this is what he said on Thursday, which could slow economic growth and curb oil demand. Some analysts, however, say demand has remained largely healthy despite the impact of the high interest rates, including in the United States. Now, JP Morgan's demand indicators are showing oil demand rising by 1.7 million barrels per day month over month through February 21st, its analysts said in a note. And meanwhile, on the other side, when you look at all the geopolitical action that's been shaping up recently, the Gaza truce talks were underway in Paris in what happens to be the most serious push in weeks to halt the conflict in Palestine and see Israeli and foreign hostages released. This obviously happened over the weekend, and ceasefire talks could prompt the market to anticipate an easing of geopolitical tensions. However, what's key to note is still there are tensions brewing in the Red Sea, and that continues. So the US energy firms this week added the most oil rigs since November and the most in a month since October 2022. That's the word coming in from energy services firm Baker Hughes in their recent oil rig count report, and it's an early indicator of the future output because that rose by 6 to 503 this week and increased by 4 when we look at it on a month-on-month basis. So, well, some demand constraints when it comes to high interest rates. On the other hand, supply is holding steady. But in the background of all of this, you also have a lot of geopolitical factors playing. So, Shreyansi, lots of factors when it comes to the world of oil, and let's see how these two indices manage to hold up over the course of the week.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of factors, or there's a lot of events that we should be looking out for. So on Feb 29th, you do have the GDP and Nifty expiry data, and it'll also be key to watch monthly auto sales on March 1st and S&P Global Manufacturing PMI data as well. Now, there's a lot of global cues, so let me break it down region by region. When we look at US, you have on Feb 26th, new home sales and consumer confidence data coming in. Feb 27th, you do have Q4 GDP and crude oil inventories data coming in. And on Feb 29th, there's initial jobless claims. Now, when you look at China as well, on Feb 28th, you have unemployment data. And on March 1st, there is official PMI and manufacturing PMI data as well. And in terms of corporate action, there's a host of counters that you should keep an eye on. On Feb 27th, there's ICICI Bank's board meet, and Vodafone Idea also has a board meet to mull fundraise. So those are the couple of counters that will remain in focus, along with NMDC. And that because it's the last day to buy to be eligible for dividend for NMDC. So keep an eye on that particular counter as well. And there's also PFC board meet to mull fundraise and Bajaj Auto's buyback record date. So keep an eye on those two counters. Now, in terms of primary market action, there's a host of counters that will remain in focus. On Feb 26th, there's GPT Healthcare IPO that closes. There is Muka Proteins IPO that opens, and on Feb 27th, there is Platinum Industries IPO that opens, and Hexacom Telesystems IPO that opens. On Feb 28th, the IPO that opened on Feb 26th, Muka Proteins closes, and Bharat Highways InvIT IPO also opens on Feb 28th. Now the lock-in period ends for a couple of counters on Feb 26th, so the likes of Gandhar Oil, Tata Tech will remain in the spotlight, and so will Fedbank Financial and Flair Writing on Feb 27th, and Nova Agritech on Feb 29th. So there's a host of counters that we need to keep our eye on.
Absolutely, Shreyaji. Busy week for us, and today is just Monday. So let's see how we gear up for the rest of the week and how the markets pan out. Lots of